The plan is to create a backstock after several months of work. Hello, so I don't know how many of you actually know this, but I have a shop online on Etsy where I sell a bunch of crochet items and stuff, and honestly, I have really desperately been needing to update the shop, so that is what today's video is going to be. I am going to be slowly working on updating my shop, adding new things, creating some backstock so that I hopefully don't get as overwhelmed over the holiday season. So yeah, not only do I want to create a backstock of items that I already have available in my shop, I also really want to develop some new items so that hopefully I can gain some new interest in the shop or get some like repeat customers from people that bought from my shop last year. So yeah, so that is the plan. So essentially the plan is on my shop, I have been selling my celestial scarf. I've been selling that since last year. I did really, really well last holiday season. So I want to create a backstock of squares for those scarves. My goal is to create enough for 4 scarves. That way, hopefully that creates a bit of a buffer so that I don't get as overwhelmed when orders do officially start coming in. Then I also want to create a couple of items to pair with this, and I want to make another colorway of the scarf. Now I have had this like green and orange red scarf on there, but I want to create a more neutral version and create like a brown version of the scarf. I'm hoping that having a more neutral option will make it so that more people want to buy it, but obviously this is a gamble. We'll see what happens. So the only one that I'm going to create official backstock for is the one that I was selling last year, just because I know that one sold. So I'm hoping that I'll get a couple more sales out of that this year, but I want to create another option just in case this secondary option is more appealing to people. And then to pair with those, I really want to make some fingerless gloves. I tried making some when I first made my scarf, but they were a little bit big. But I have some thoughts on how to make them a little bit smaller so that they fit on the hands better. So I want to make those, and then that way, you know, they'd be a nice pairing together if someone wants both. And then the last thing that I really want to add are my like duck mittens. I made them last year at the end of the year and I gave them to one of my friends as like a gift. But people really seem to like them off of that video. So I figured why not add that onto the shop and just see what happens. See if people are even interested in that type of thing. So yeah, so that is the goal. That is the plan. Now I will be honest, I have been working on this slowly throughout the entire summer. So some of these clips are going to be a lot more scattered, and currently as of filming, I actually just this morning finished uploading the last thing that I needed to upload on my shop. So I will be upfront that I didn't talk or pause at any point to do a little update as I was doing this, because I was just finding little pockets of time throughout the last like 3 months to work on all of this. So I do apologize for that. I haven't gone through the footage quite yet, so I'm hoping that there's enough here to make a coherent video or something that's at least like interesting to watch. So I'll definitely be doing some voiceovers while I'm working on these just to like explain what I'm doing. But with that, I think it's flashback to several months ago where I started working on all of these. I started off by working on the backstock of squares for all of the scarves that I was wanting. To do this, I like to focus on one color at a time just so that I don't have to switch up as I'm working, and I like starting with the easier parts first. So in this case, I like to churn out the center stars and then move on to the center suns. They're all the same color, and then all I have to do after that is build up the outside of those squares. I also in between like to sew in the ends after each step just so that I don't have a bunch of ends that I have to sew in at the end, because that is always such a pain to have all of the squares done and then have so many ends to sew in. This also forces me to slow down a bit and gives my wrist a little bit of a break, since crocheting can be really taxing on my wrist, so having that to break it up is definitely very nice. But I'll be honest, I kind of bounced around projects, and even as I was working on this update, I actually got a few orders, so I had to start digging into this backstock that I was working on and then had to like replace what I had worked on. But that's ultimately a good thing. This backstock was just there so that I would be able to make orders easier, and it definitely was much easier. So I am happy that I decided to do this. That way it'll be so much easier to have orders ready to go for the holiday season. I also worked on the brown version of this scarf, but I'm realizing as I'm editing that I either entirely lost the footage or I never pulled out the camera, but I think I just somehow lost some footage because I do remember pulling it out while I was working on the brown scarf, and actually the fingerless gloves for that matter. I'm not sure what exactly happened because I do remember pulling out the camera for those, so I don't know where the footage went. So unfortunately I have nothing of me working on those, but thankfully I didn't lose everything, and I do still have some footage of me working on the duck gloves. I used the pattern that I made last year, so I will link that also below in case you want to make that for yourself. But once everything else was done, I went back to working on the backstock of squares, and I always end up leaving the most complicated ones for the end, the moon ones, because I can't really stop in the in-between. But I did decide this time to pause in the middle of making the moon squares just so that I could sew in those first few ends, so I would only have 1 or 2 left at the end, and that really helped make it easier to get the squares done faster. I will also make sure to link the pattern for the squares down below, and with all of that done, all I needed to do was work on listing photos and description and then upload everything to my shop. Okay, so after several months of work, I have now finished everything. Now, the first thing and the biggest thing that I finished was the backstock of my original colorway of my scarf. So let me grab those real fast. So here I have all 48, I think, squares that are necessary to make 4 scarves, which is great. So that'll make it so much easier to just grab the squares, sew them together, create the border. Be so much faster. So that is all done, which is great. And then I also finished the brown version of the scarf, which I am honestly so happy with how this turned out. I think this looks so cute. I really love the brown colorway. I feel like it's a nice, like, kind of neutral, which I really like. So there's that. And then we of course have the matching fingerless gloves to go with this one, as well as the other one. I realized I'm not talking into the mic whatsoever, so I apologize if the sound is kind of weird. But yeah, matching gloves for the first colorway and then the brown one as well, which I really like. I will also include some of the product listings that I took throughout this because I definitely show them a bit better in those that I am currently. But then the last piece that I finished were the duck gloves that I listed this morning. So everything is now up live on my shop, which is great. But yeah, this was a lot of work. It definitely took a lot longer to work on all this than I thought it would. I thought this process would go much faster than it did. So, but at the end of the day, I'm happy to have finished all of this, and I'm just so proud of myself for getting so much work done because this was a lot of work. So yeah, I will make sure to link below the pattern that I use for these granny squares that I use for the scarves, just because this was not my pattern for these squares. So I will have those linked below. I got them from another shop. And then I can also link the video with the duck glove pattern because I posted that last year. You can use that pattern if you want to, so feel free to make these if you want. But if you do want one pre-made by me, they are available on my shop if you want them, but obviously there is absolutely no pressure whatsoever. So I was just filming this to make sure that I actually finally got this done because I have been needing to do this for such a long time. So I'm really happy that I finally did. So, but with that, yeah, I feel like I'm officially ready for the holiday season. I'm hoping to have a good year in terms of sales on my shop. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it goes well. And I'm excited to start working on some of my more fun Halloween projects. I'm really excited. I have a couple ideas that I think are going to be super fun. So with that, I think that is everything. So if there is anything else you'd like to see from me, just let me know down below. Make sure to like and subscribe and everything. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye. Okay, no more of this. If you stick around to the end, I just want to say thank you and I guess fix my bangs while I say so because the scarf kind of messed with them. Anyways, yes, thank you for sticking around to the end. I apologize if this video isn't the most interesting because I have no idea what footage I got because I've been filming this for such a long time. So hopefully this is interesting, or hopefully I insert something that is actually interesting into this. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, hope you're all doing well and happy fall, everyone. We finally made it to fall and it's so exciting and I'm so happy. So here's to more fun fall projects. And yeah, if there's anything you're excited to make this fall, let me know. I would love to hear it. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.